She said no one could replace him, but somehow I did. It's emotionally charged, creates instant curiosity, and perfectly fits a slow burn, age gap romance narrative. If you want, I can give 5 alternative hooks that are just as gripping for YouTube shorts. Do you want me to do that? The story opens with the male narrator steeped in memories he cannot quite let go of. He is alone in his apartment, the quiet hum of the city outside only amplifying the echo of her presence in his mind. He touches a worn scarf folded neatly on the shelf, and instantly, her perfume floods his senses, soft, subtle, lingering in a way that feels like a whisper of her presence. The memory of her laugh surfaces, warm and melodic, threading through the emptiness around him, making the silence heavier than it should be. He recalls the small, intimate moments they once shared, the brush of her hand against his when reaching for a book, the tilt of her head as she listened attentively to his stories, her fingers tracing absent-minded patterns on his arm. These moments, though fleeting at the time, now feel monumental, like fragments of a life he can't quite reclaim. There's a quiet ache in his chest, a mixture of nostalgia, longing, and the subtle sting of regret. The past, he realizes, has a way of lingering in the corners of your mind, shaping your present even when you think you've moved on. Emotionally, this keynote sets the stage for vulnerability. The narrator is not just reflecting on her absence. He is grappling with what it means to be replaced or to move forward. He remembers her words, sharp but honest, no one could replace him. Those words, once comforting, now haunt him because they suggest a permanence he feels incapable of matching, but also, unknowingly, foreshadow the story's central tension. Visually, the scene emphasizes intimacy and sensory richness. Perhaps he lingers by the window where they once shared coffee, the sunlight catching the dust in the room and highlighting the faint imprint of a memory. The room smells faintly of old books and her perfume, a combination that tugs at his heart. His fingers hover over objects she once touched, the corner of a photograph, the back of a chair, seeking traces of her that reassure him of the reality they once shared. Internally, the narrator wrestles with the duality of pain and warmth. He feels both the heaviness of loss and the comfort of memory, the bittersweet paradox that makes him human and relatable. This emotional layering is crucial for YouTube storytelling. Viewers should feel the depth of his reflection, the quiet tension of a heart not fully healed, and the yearning for something or someone new to enter his life. By the end of this keynote, the stage is set for the entrance of the new woman. The lingering past creates contrast and heightens emotional stakes. Viewers understand the narrator's hesitation, his vulnerability, and the emotional weight he carries. Every glance, every touch in the next keynotes will carry this quiet resonance, making the slow burn romance feel earned and deeply immersive. Emotional goal: establish the narrator as reflective, emotionally rich, and relatable. The audience should empathize with his sense of loss while feeling anticipation for the new connection that will challenge the hold of the past. After days of being enveloped in memories, the male narrator steps out into the world, not expecting anything to change. Yet life has a quiet way of shuffling the pieces in places he least expects. It happens on a seemingly ordinary day, a cafe, a bookstore, or a small park. Somewhere the world hums softly around him, almost oblivious to the storm of emotions within. And then he sees her. She isn't flashy or deliberately striking, but there's a magnetism in her presence he cannot ignore. She moves with a natural grace, the kind of poise that comes from experience, confidence, and an unspoken understanding of herself. Her laughter carries lightly on the air, and for a moment, he feels the familiar twinge of nervous excitement he thought was long buried. His chest tightens, a subtle flutter of anticipation he hasn't felt in years. What makes the encounter arresting isn't just her physical presence. It's the little details that punctuate the moment. Her fingers brush the spine of a book as if remembering its texture, the sunlight catching the subtle highlights in her hair, and the faint scent of her perfume. Warm, earthy, slightly sweet, settling softly in his senses. The world seems to quiet around her, the usual background noise dimming in comparison to the pull of her energy. Every small movement feels intentional, yet effortless, like she belongs exactly where she is. The emotional tension lies in his simultaneous curiosity and hesitation. He is drawn to her, but part of him hesitates, perhaps from fear of repeating past mistakes, perhaps from the lingering presence of someone he once loved. He studies the curve of her smile, the way her eyes crinkle when she laughs, the slight tilt of her head when she listens, all without her noticing. Every detail etches itself into his memory, quietly rewriting the narrative of what he thought love could look like after loss. Their interaction is small, almost accidental. A shared glance over the rim of a coffee cup, the brush of hands while reaching for the same magazine, a polite conversation that lingers just long enough to feel significant. These subtle touches, innocent yet charged, ignite the first sparks of intimacy. The narrator notices how her voice carries warmth without effort, how she listens as if every word he speaks matters, and how he feels seen in a way that surprises him. Visually, this keynote emphasizes closeness and subtle tension. The camera, or narrative focus, lingers on tiny movements, her fingers adjusting her hair, the way she shifts slightly closer when talking, the quiet energy in her posture. Emotionally, the audience should feel the pull of unspoken attraction, the curiosity and suspense that accompany the first encounter with someone who might change everything. By the end of this keynote, the stage is set for gradual emotional development. He is intrigued, captivated, and quietly vulnerable. She has entered his world, unassuming yet transformative, and the audience feels the quiet promise of something new, a connection that could slowly grow, challenging both his past and his understanding of love. Emotional goal: introduce the new woman as magnetic yet approachable, highlighting subtle emotional tension, curiosity, and the beginning of mutual intrigue. Viewers should feel anticipation, empathy, and the first hints of slow-burning attraction. By now, the male narrator has begun to notice her presence more acutely. Their interactions are no longer fleeting. They linger in his thoughts long after the moment has passed. These moments are small, seemingly insignificant, but each carries a weight he cannot ignore. A shared smile across a cafe table, the accidental brush of hands when reaching for the same notebook, or the quiet laughter at a mutual joke. These moments begin to stitch a tapestry of connection that feels both fragile and profound. What makes these small moments so impactful is the intimacy they carry without requiring words. One afternoon, as they sit side by side on a worn park bench, he feels the subtle warmth radiating from her shoulder when she leans slightly closer to watch a bird hop along the path. He notices how her hair brushes lightly against his arm, sending an unexpected shiver through him, a mixture of excitement and tenderness. It is in these fleeting, tactile moments that the slow-burn tension truly begins to build. He is captivated not by grand gestures, but by the quiet, human details of her presence. Emotionally, the narrator is caught between curiosity and hesitation. He is aware of the lingering past, the shadow of someone he once loved, yet he cannot deny the pull of this new connection. Every subtle gesture, her fingers lingering on the handle of his coffee cup, the gentle tilt of her head when she listens, speaks volumes. These small touches communicate trust, attention, and a burgeoning intimacy he has not felt in years. Her presence begins to affect his everyday life. He finds himself looking forward to the smallest encounters, replaying conversations in his mind, noticing details about her, how her laughter softens when she is thoughtful, or how her gaze lingers just a little too long when she speaks. The narrator begins to understand that intimacy is not always loud or dramatic. It is often woven through pauses, touches, and unspoken understanding. Visually, this keynote emphasizes closeness and the beauty of ordinary moments. The camera, or narrative focus, lingers on the way sunlight catches her hair, the subtle brush of hands over a shared notebook, or the tilt of her head as she leans slightly toward him. Each micro-interaction builds anticipation, creating a sense of slow, inevitable emotional pull. The audience begins to feel invested in these tiny gestures, understanding that romance is often built in quiet, unremarkable moments that carry extraordinary emotional weight. By the end of this keynote, the foundation of emotional intimacy is established. The narrator is drawn to her not just for her confidence or elegance, but for the way she makes him feel seen, understood, and quietly cherished. The subtle tension of attraction simmers beneath the surface, preparing the story for moments of deeper vulnerability and honest conversation in later keynotes. Emotional goal: highlight the significance of subtle, tactile, and emotionally rich moments that build intimacy. Viewers should feel the slow, magnetic pull between the characters, the anticipation of emotional closeness, and the warmth of early connection that feels both real and relatable. As their connection grows, the male narrator begins to sense that their small, charged moments are evolving into something deeper. It is no longer just curiosity or fleeting attraction. There's a quiet trust beginning to take root. This keynote focuses on the first moments of real emotional vulnerability, when both characters begin to reveal pieces of themselves they have kept hidden, creating a bond that feels intimate and profound. The scene may unfold in a simple, everyday setting: a quiet cafe during an overcast afternoon, or a park bench where the sunlight filters softly through leaves. He notices the subtle signs that she is carrying her own quiet burdens: the slight hesitation before she answers a question, the way her eyes soften when she recalls certain memories. The narrator senses that her strength is paired with a tender vulnerability, a combination that intrigues him and pulls him closer emotionally. The moment comes organically. Perhaps she speaks about a past heartbreak, a failed relationship, or a fear she has never shared with anyone else. Her words are careful but honest, each syllable revealing more than she intends. He listens, genuinely and quietly, noticing how her fingers trace absent-minded patterns on her coffee cup, or how her shoulders tense and relax with each memory she shares. These small gestures speak volumes, revealing layers of her emotional world without the need for dramatic declarations. The narrator, too, responds in kind, allowing glimpses of his own vulnerabilities to surface. He may speak about regrets, losses, or the lingering ache of a past connection that has shaped him. There's a quiet hesitancy in his voice, a vulnerability he rarely allows anyone to see. The physical closeness enhances the emotional intimacy. When she pauses to collect her thoughts, he instinctively reaches out, brushing a stray strand of hair from her face or letting his hand linger lightly over hers. The touch is soft, deliberate, and full of unspoken reassurance, a language beyond words that communicates empathy, care, and connection. This keynote is rich with sensory details. The warmth of their proximity, the subtle scent of her perfume mingling with the faint aroma of coffee, the soft murmur of the cafe around them. All these elements heighten the sense of intimacy. Every small movement, glance, and gesture carries meaning, making the audience feel the quiet intensity of the moment. Emotionally, this stage is crucial. It deepens their bond while reinforcing the slow-burn nature of their relationship. The narrator realizes that intimacy is not just built through shared laughter or fleeting touches. It is cultivated in the courage to show one's imperfections, the willingness to be seen fully, and the patience to accept another person's emotional truths. The audience should feel the tenderness and weight of these exchanges, understanding that love often grows in the quiet spaces between words. By the end of this keynote, the stage is set for tension and hesitation. The connection is real, meaningful, and emotionally charged, but external doubts, lingering past attachments, and self-doubt begin to surface. The slow-burn romance is moving toward deeper emotional stakes, and the viewers are invested in every subtle gesture, unspoken thought, and heartfelt confession. Emotional goal: highlight the power of vulnerability to create trust and intimacy. Viewers should feel the characters' growing closeness, the comfort and tension in shared emotional exposure, and the beauty of intimacy built on honesty and mutual understanding. By this point, the male narrator and the woman have shared moments of quiet intimacy, small touches, and honest conversations that reveal the depth of their connection. Yet, the slow-burn nature of their relationship requires tension, hesitation, internal conflict, and external obstacles that make their emotional journey compelling. This keynote focuses on the challenges that test their growing bond and deepen the audience's investment. The narrator begins to grapple with lingering doubts. Memories of a past love continue to haunt him, whispering that he may never measure up to someone who once held her heart. He wonders if he is intruding on a life that has room only for the memory of the past. Each glance from her, every subtle gesture of warmth, stirs both hope and anxiety. He hesitates before reaching for her hand, his fingers hovering uncertainly, as if the simple act of touch might carry more weight than he is ready to bear. Externally, there may be reminders of the past or subtle warnings from those around them. Friends, colleagues, or even casual acquaintances might caution him to proceed slowly, noting her history or the emotional baggage that both carry. These moments are not meant to villainize anyone, but rather to reflect real-life obstacles that test his courage and emotional resilience. Perhaps she herself expresses hesitancy, admitting that opening her heart fully feels risky after past experiences. The narrator hears these words and feels the simultaneous pull of desire and fear, the push and pull that slow-burn romance thrives upon. Sensory-rich details enhance the emotional tension. Imagine a scene in a quiet park at dusk, where the soft glow of streetlights casts elongated shadows across the pavement. His hand inches toward hers, but she adjusts her scarf, subtly pulling away, leaving only the faint warmth of proximity lingering in the air. Or perhaps a moment in a cafe where their chairs are side by side. His shoulder brushes hers, but he hesitates, noting the slight tension in her posture and the barely perceptible tightening of her fingers. These small physical cues communicate the emotional stakes without the need for dramatic exposition. Emotionally, the narrator experiences a storm of conflicting feelings: desire, guilt, fear, hope, and admiration all intertwine. He questions whether he has the right to be this close, whether he is truly capable of providing the steadiness she deserves. Yet every hesitant touch, every lingering glance, reminds him that their bond is real and meaningful, even if it is fraught with uncertainty. The audience should feel this tension viscerally, empathizing with his internal struggle and rooting for him to overcome it. This keynote sets the stage for eventual breakthroughs in emotional intimacy. By presenting conflict and hesitation at this point, the story maintains a realistic and engaging progression. The slow burn pace allows viewers to live in the tension, savoring each subtle moment of connection and misstep. The stakes are clear. They are drawn to each other, yet the past, fear, and uncertainty create a delicate dance of closeness and restraint. Emotional goal: build tension and hesitation to make the eventual emotional breakthroughs more satisfying. Viewers should feel the narrator's internal struggle, empathize with his uncertainty, and anticipate the moments when courage and vulnerability will finally bring them closer. After moments of hesitation, doubt, and small, intimate encounters, the male narrator begins to sense a subtle but profound shift. He notices the ways in which their connection has quietly taken root, changing both their worlds in ways neither expected. This keynote captures the moment of realization, the recognition that he has become important to her in a way that is not defined by the past, and that she, too, has grown attached to his presence. The realization unfolds gradually. Perhaps he observes it in her actions, the way she seeks him out in a crowded room, the faint relief in her eyes when he arrives, the small gestures of consideration she offers, an extra blanket during a chilly evening, her hand lingering a moment longer on his arm when they laugh. These seemingly ordinary acts carry extraordinary emotional weight because they are deliberate, meaningful, and tender. For the narrator, the revelation is both comforting and exhilarating. He begins to notice that the lingering ache from the past has softened, replaced by the warmth of a connection that is alive and real. There's a moment, maybe while sharing a quiet cup of coffee or walking through a sun-dappled park, when their hands brush, and this time, he does not hesitate. His fingers find hers, and there is no need for words. Their mutual understanding and unspoken affection fill the space. The brush of skin sends a quiet thrill through him, a gentle confirmation that they belong, at least for this moment, in the same emotional space. Emotionally, this keynote emphasizes subtle acknowledgement rather than dramatic declarations. Their glances linger just a little longer, smiles are softer, and silences feel comfortable rather than awkward. He senses that she is leaning into him as naturally as he has begun to lean into her, and this quiet reciprocity reinforces the depth of their bond. She may catch his hand lightly on hers and let it stay there, or place her palm on the small of his back as they navigate a narrow path, gestures that communicate trust, warmth, and emerging love without a single explicit word. The sensory details enhance the intimacy. The warmth of her hand against his, the soft rustle of her hair as it brushes his shoulder, the gentle cadence of her laughter mingling with the hum of the world around them. Each detail draws the audience closer, allowing them to feel the magnetic pull between the characters. These shared moments create a profound sense of closeness, proving that love is often built in the quiet, unspoken spaces rather than in overt declarations. By the end of this keynote, the slow-burn tension that has defined their interactions reaches a tipping point. The narrator understands that he has become indispensable to her, and she, in turn, has begun to rely on his steadiness and warmth. The stage is now set for emotional resolution, but the story remains grounded in realism and subtlety. Their love is earned, gradual, and deeply human. Emotional goal: convey the moment of mutual recognition and emotional breakthrough. Viewers should feel the quiet intensity of the bond, the satisfaction of slowly built intimacy, and anticipation for the story's warm, heartfelt resolution. After the tension, hesitation, and quiet realizations, the story reaches its emotional climax, where the male narrator and the woman fully acknowledge the bond that has grown between them. This keynote focuses on the warmth, tenderness, and emotional fulfillment that comes from embracing a connection earned slowly through shared vulnerability, subtle touches, and patient intimacy. The resolution unfolds naturally. There are no sudden declarations or overblown gestures. Instead, it is in the small, deliberate actions that the depth of their love becomes clear. Perhaps they meet in a familiar place that has become meaningful to both. A quiet cafe, a park where sunlight filters through the leaves, or a cozy living room. He notices her presence before she speaks. The soft sway of her hair, the gentle warmth radiating from her as she smiles, the subtle curve of her lips that has somehow remained etched in his memory. There is a sense of calm, of a quiet certainty that contrasts the hesitation of their earlier encounters. Physical affection is tender and deliberate, reflecting their emotional journey. Her arms may slip lightly around his waist, resting her cheek against his chest, letting him feel the steady rhythm of her heartbeat. His hand finds hers, fingers interlacing naturally, neither rushed nor forced, simply connecting as if they were always meant to. Every touch is layered with meaning. The reassurance of presence, the acknowledgement of shared history, and the quiet joy of mutual care. Even the simplest gestures, like brushing a strand of hair from her face or adjusting her scarf, carry the weight of emotional intimacy and the comfort of trust. The emotional resolution also embraces their shared growth. The male narrator has learned to let go of the past without erasing its lessons, and she has allowed herself to accept love that is steady, attentive, and patient. There is an understanding between them that what they have is rare and valuable, built not on grand declarations, but on countless small, meaningful moments. The lingering traces of previous heartbreak or past attachments are acknowledged, but no longer hold power over their connection. Sensory-rich details heighten the moment. The faint scent of her perfume mingling with the warm aroma of coffee, the soft hum of a city evening outside a window, the subtle play of light and shadow across her face as she smiles. The physical and emotional closeness is mirrored in these sensory touches, allowing the audience to feel the depth of their bond as though they were present. The slow-burn tension that has defined their story now resolves into warmth, trust, and quiet passion, a romance that feels earned, human, and deeply satisfying. If multiple women are involved, the resolution can also include a shared moment of affectionate, respectful connection, arms around each other, smiles exchanged, and laughter that acknowledges their place together without conflict or jealousy. The story emphasizes emotional richness over drama, reinforcing that age gap romance, forbidden attraction, or past complexities can coexist with healthy, fulfilling connections. Emotional goal: deliver a satisfying and heartwarming resolution. Viewers should feel relief, joy, and emotional fulfillment, witnessing a love that has grown gradually through vulnerability, patience, and shared tenderness. The slow burn arc is complete, leaving the audience emotionally satisfied and deeply invested in the character's journey.